I just wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like. So I know the post or the pole is kind of blocking it. But I have the ladder right here. This is going to be my straw man. I may use this as a straw man example for a lot of things until Malik gets situated, because he's going to be helping me out with a lot of this stuff as time goes on, hopefully. Got the correct fittings for the faucet and the hot and cold water, because originally when I did it, I ordered it online and I got the wrong size. Oh, by the way, a couple of days ago was when Malik helped me move this refrigerator, because it was sitting in the living room for a long time. So that's where it's located at right now. But the timing could not have been better. It was only the previous day that Malik and I had moved the sink from the backyard into the kitchen again. Okay, I'm ready for the hot. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Got to get my lunches. Okay, I'm ready for the hot. Okay, I'm ready for the cold. Okay, did you see that wide cable? It's white. Should be down there somewhere. Right up the camera if it's rolling. Okay. Careful, there's a lot of debris on there. Careful. Right. Don't aim it towards yourself. Set it down.
Yeah, for sure. Get the gloves now. At some point.
What's that?
Yes, at some point I probably should get the gloves if it's going to be a lot of debris.
I'm not sure whether or not you need your gloves. It all depends on how comfortable you are without. Okay, I think either you got to push this in or pull it out. Depending on how wide or how narrow you want it. So what you're going to do, you're going to climb up the ladder. Hold the ladder for me.
Yeah.
See, this thing is sticking out, so if I pull it down too hard, it's going to catch it.
Yeah. How was your stuff moving on the last? All right.
Okay, now just like I pulled that one down, you're going to pull all the ones down. I don't know about the ones around the, don't have to worry about those when we get to those.
All right.
But
Yeah,
you-
one second. I got to explain something to you. I haven't been to Woodstock since like about Monday.
So why are you telling me
I'll
that?
tell you that because I want to make one trip to the bathroom real quick before I get started. Downstairs in the basement.
Okay.
All right. That way, once I leave the bathroom, I could get.
Is there toilet paper down there?
I think I might have seen some.
Where's my house?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I
Okay.
think I might have seen some.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to move your ladder
Mm-hmm.
wherever you're most comfortable on getting to the panels in.
All right.
Because I took that one out, and you want to start taking the rest of it out. Put most stuff out of your way.
Yeah. It would be best to just start from here and come on around.
However you want to do it.
Cool.
Just let me know so I can aim the camera where we're at. You want to move that chair out the way? You can do that.
All right, that's good enough for now.
Yeah, because you're going to move the stuff back a little bit.
Okay.
You're going to get up and you're going to take them down. And hand it to me. Also, the veins, just this metal stuff,
Yeah.
that's going to come down too. So looking to do that in a separate step.
Right.
They'll take all the panels down. So if any of that stuff gets messed up, it's no big thing.
All right.
And if any of it's stuck in your way, you just want to, if it's loose enough to, move it out of the way, you can go ahead and do that as you go. That's up to you.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the stability of the ladder is kind of okay. It don't seem like it's fidgety.
Okay. Watch out for your eyes. Let them get in the safety glasses. You don't want any dust get in your eyes.
Right.
Are you squeezing it tight?
Yeah, kind of like. All right, that's what.
Yeah, that's what it is. Malik is still alive. This is by no means his epitaph or anything like that. However, due to the recent occurrence of events, there have been major changes in his life. He and I had a sort of arrangement where he would stop by my house for a brief visit on a weekly basis, which he continued doing up until a few weeks ago. I did not find it out until after the fact that made me the last family member to have seen him before what happened. This clip is not just for family member viewing. It is in fact more so for those outside of the family. It has to do with when a family member suffers from mental illness. I am sharing experiences within my own family, such that those who may see it and don't know anything about me can compare it with similar situations they may be experiencing themselves. Because as you know, when mental illness exists, it does not impact just that person's immediate family, but everyone else far and wide. Since some of you may not know of the relationship which exists, Malik is my nephew. I'm his uncle. He does not call me uncle, but rather by my preferred name, Unc. Malik has always had a drinking problem. He has always had a drug problem. On more than one occasion, he has put his life at risk due to his ongoing substance abuse problem. But the problem he has had with drinking and drugs, I never counseled him on. I never once tried to talk him out of drinking and taking drugs, because I believed his was a case of profound mental incapacity. Therefore, I was thoroughly convinced he would never stop drinking or taking drugs simply because he did not know how not to. Others did try to talk to him about it, which they were welcome to. Although Malik has led a troubled life, he has not revealed much of those troubles to me. Whenever we were together, his behavior was manageable. That was because of a couple of reasons. Number one, I never asked of him more than he was able to do. And number two, I never allowed him the opportunity to forsake my trust. He had spent time at my residence in Maryland. He had spent time visiting me at my house here in Philadelphia. At no time did I ever invite him to remain with me overnight, a single night. Not once. I would instead get him a room at some local motel for one or more nights. So the troubles other family members had with him, I never did. Never once did I ever say, Malik, you are welcome to come live with me. Because I knew an individual of his condition was not responsible with freedoms. He abuses freedoms, not because he wants to, but rather because he doesn't know how not to. Malik agreed to come with me to Maryland. Years before, I had brought him down there with me a couple of different times. The first time, I was able to get him enrolled into a program which would lead to independent living. Only thing was, you had to remain in that program on their premises for a certain period of time, a couple of weeks or something like that. You had to abide by their rules. After a week or less, Malik decided he did not like their rules and walked off. He stole a car and drove himself back to Philadelphia. A year or two after, I had him with me in Maryland again. He only lasted a couple of days that time, before again stealing a car and driving himself back to Philadelphia. But 2016 was different. I did not have to bring him to Maryland by myself. He was more willing to come on his own. He got in touch with cousin Randall, who drove him part of the way. I met them at the halfway point, where Malik rode with me the rest of the way to Frederick. His stay lasted for a couple of weeks. He did not try to get back to Philadelphia. This time, it was my decision to return him home. I had him in a motel room in Frederick City. I lived on Fort Detrick Post. I did everything for him. I paid his motel room. I went shopping with him. I paid for all of his food, his clothing, his toiletries, everything. I'd pick him up from his room after work and bring him to my house. Sometimes we would hang out there watching sports, or he'd do his laundry. Whenever it got to be a certain time of evening, I'd say, "Okay, Malik, it's time for me to take you back to your motel room," which I would do. I did not have any problem out of him. To the point of one Saturday, I visited him at his motel. I gave him a collared shirt. I told him, "Here's a shirt for you to wear tomorrow. I'll be by at such and such a time in the morning to pick you up. I'm taking you with me to church." When I arrived the following morning, he was ready. He went with me to church. He tended to call me on his cell phone daily. One day he called me talking about some girl he met that day. He told me she really could use someone's help. He seemed interested in my helping her out. He said she is someone who's just down on her luck. She is really a nice girl. You can come by and meet her yourself if you want. I made it clear to him that I was uninterested in being introduced to anyone he's met. I told him I was uninterested in helping her out as well. But I also told him that if it was important enough to him, then he could help her himself. I explained. I said that I pay X amount of dollars per week for his food. I said for the upcoming week, instead of buying him food directly, I could convert some of it into cash and give it to him. He need only let me know how much of it he wanted as cash. I made it clear there would be no food money for the days he had the cash equivalent. He said he understood. I went down there. I gave him the cash amount we agreed on. I did not remain. I just dropped off the money and kept going. Never seeing anyone else with him. The next day, I did not hear from him at all. which was unlikely, like him. It worried me. It worried me a lot. But knowing Malik, he is not the type of person for you to worry about and you let him know that you are worrying about not hearing from him. Because he will take that and twist it into some sort of advantage. So I let that day go by. The day after that, I was not hearing from him again. Now I'm really worried, wondering what is going on. At noon, he finally called me. I was relieved. He apologized for being out of touch. He said that he had been in the bed sick for the past 2 days. Apparently, he and this female friend of his had brought a fifth of hard liquor. He drank more of it than he should have. He ended up getting sick because of it. That was at noon when he called me. I said, okay, I'm on my way down to your room. It will take me just 10 minutes to get there. He asked that I give him more time to get himself ready. He said, I have not even been out of bed in 2 days. I have to get up and get showered. I said, okay, you tell me what time to come. He said, 2 o'clock. I said, okay, I'll see you at 2. I got there at that time. I used my second key to his room to let myself in. He was still laying up in the bed. I told him it did not seem like he was even trying to get himself up. I told him, Malik, you've got a choice. Either you can get yourself up and dress right now and ride with me to the hospital to get yourself checked out. Or otherwise, I'm calling 911 and have an ambulance come take you. The choice is yours. All he said was he did not want to go to the hospital, which was not a good enough answer for me. I made the call and let him know the ambulance was on the way. When it arrived, I met the drivers outside in the parking lot. I went to them and discussed the situation. That was beyond where Malik could hear what was being said. It was good we were out of his earshot, because they told me point blank, if he doesn't want to go to the hospital, we can't force him to. Next thing I knew, Malik was getting himself up and dressed. The ambulance departed without him. He rode with me to the hospital. I thought they would check him over, prescribe some medication, and send him on his way. He ended up in the hospital for a week with pancreatitis. I visited him often. The doctors shared their diagnosis with me. They said his condition was clearly brought on by drinking, and that in order to remain healthy, he has to stop drinking. The day he was released from the hospital, I was there to pick him up. I drove him back to his motel room. After making sure he had everything he needed for that day, I said, be ready to go in the morning. I'm driving you back home to Philadelphia. It shocked him to hear me say that. Suddenly, our roles were reversed, because I was telling him I was taking him back to Philadelphia. He said, no, I don't want to go back. I said, Malik, you are going back. He said, Unc, can I please stay here with you in Maryland? Please. I said, nope, that ain't going to happen. Be ready in the morning when I come to pick you up. And then I left and went home. I knew his problem was not drinking. His problem was mental illness. I felt he was incapable of stopping drinking. I was like, you ain't dying on me, not on my watch. If you're going to die, then you need to die back there in Philadelphia where it is away from me. I came back the following morning to pick him up. I suddenly became very nervous on my way to his motel, because maybe I should not have said anything about taking him back to Philadelphia. I did not expect him to respond the way he did. I worried because suppose I go to his room to get him and he's not there. All he had to do was go hide out somewhere until I stopped looking for him. Then I couldn't take him nowhere. But fortunately, he was there and ready to go. Even Renee was not thrilled when I called to tell her I was on the way with him. It's not a good time, I remember her saying, which was true. She had just lost her mother. Later in 2016 was when I was shipped off to Korea for a few years. Malik, meanwhile, picked up another sentence, so we were both away for a while. In late October, I received a call from him. He said he was ready and willing to take a break from his life in Philadelphia. I said, okay, give me a few days to set things up. I contacted Jackie in West Virginia. I said I'd like to bring Malik there and have him remain for a visit. I would be there just long enough to drop him off. It was a big responsibility I was asking of her. It meant he would be under her watchful eye for the duration. Although he would have his own motel room, beyond that, she would be responsible for his every need. To see that he was taken to the store periodically for groceries. It did not take long for her to agree to this arrangement. By the beginning of November, Malik was a passenger in my car being taken to West Virginia. It was shortly after my return to Philadelphia that I posted a clip here on my channel regarding the situation without stating him by name. But my interpretation of the situation is that it had reduced itself to a matter of life and death. I refuse to stand by while a member of my family travels down that path merely because they do not know any better. I knew him well. I was well aware of his drinking and drug habit. I felt had he remained, he would continue to indulge, not because he wanted to, but because he did not have enough sense not to. I felt that whatever time he had outside of the city and his current environment could extend the duration of whatever regular life he had. Even I did not realize at the time how prophetic those thoughts turned out to be. I knew him well enough to know he was not going to remain in West Virginia permanently or for even a long duration. That when he made up his mind to return to Philadelphia, he would come back, even without my assistance, which was what he did. While in West Virginia and under Jackie's care, he was not given access to pocket money. Therefore, he was less likely to suffer any of the recurring illnesses due to his continued drinking. But as soon as he returned, did his illnesses. Over the next several months, in fact, he was in and out of the hospital. In March of 2021, he was going through one of those rare brief periods when he was prevented from returning home to live at his mother's house. During that span, I was hearing from him much more regularly than I usually do. There was an urgency in his voice requesting my help. He came by my house one day. I said, "Okay, I'll help you out. Let's take a ride up to the homeless shelter." I told him, spend one night at the shelter, and then the next morning I will take you and put you in a hotel. He willfully rode with me to the shelter. When we arrived in front of it, he got out of the car. I got out, too. He told me, "You don't have to go in there with me." I said, "I'm going in. I'm going to make sure you get in process properly and that you are really in there for the night." Because knowing him, I was aware of some of the games he plays, feigning compliance when he has no intention of doing so. When he saw there was no way of allowing him to play me that way, he became upset, shouting and carrying on. And then he stormed off. He walked away in a huff. There was nothing else for me to do but go back home. Maybe he did not realize it at the moment. He just made things easy for me, because I need not worry about returning in the morning to get him and take him to a hotel which I would be paying for. Besides, I knew I could count on him contacting me again eventually, because in certain ways he did not have many other options outside of me. Sure enough, a week later, he was back in contact with me. He came back to my house for a talk. It was not a long talk, but it was a different sort of talk, not like ones we had had in the past. It started off as it usually does, him wanting my help, but more or less by giving him money, not doing anything like trying to get him to spend the night in a shelter. That was when I decided to approach it differently. I said, "Malik, you are always able to express yourself and the things you don't want to do. I took you to West Virginia. Eventually you decided you no longer wanted to stay there, and you came back home. Last week I tried to get you to spend one night in the homeless shelter. You said you weren't going to do that, and you stormed off. I said, it is time to turn the tables. Rather than continuing to tell me what you ain't going to do, give this some thought. You don't have to answer it right away, but later on, come up with some sort of plan as to whatever it is that you want to do. If it is going back to school or whatever. Because this continued cycle ain't cutting it. No need to answer this at the moment, but later on, come up with a plan and let me know what that plan is. His lack of hesitation startled me. He said, it's not necessary to wait a week to come back with an answer. He said, you've done too many things for me in the past, and I love you too much, Unc, for me not to be completely honest with you. Because if it's some sort of plan, you want me to come up with for my life, that ain't going to happen. It is a conversation we will never have. I responded. So you are admitting that due to your limited mental capacity, you are completely incapable of establishing any direction for your life whatsoever? He answered, yes, that is exactly what I am admitting. Over the next several weeks was when we developed that arrangement of him visiting me briefly on a weekly basis. Always the same day, always the same time, which he stuck to until he could not anymore. It was why I was the last family member to see him as his regular self. Malik is someone I never gave up on trying to get help for, to the point of several weeks ago being in contact with psychologists and attorneys to discuss what could be done. Because someone need not only be a danger to others, they can also be a danger to themselves. In closing, I will add this. We have some family members. You know who you are without me saying by name, who have not had so much as a conversation with Malik in many years, yet suddenly are calling around, wanting to know what's going on with him. Rather than doing that, my advice to you would be to do something more useful, such as giving Malik's mother a call, offering some words of encouragement in this difficult time for her. Because if all you are doing is being nosy, then it doesn't look good.